Okay, so now we're recording. Yeah. Yeah. Or why don't you sit down?
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it'll be like next summer at the earliest.
So you.
Really odd turn. Quite like.
Blend right into the Hey guys. Hello. I don't know if I'm like this. Can you hear anything? Is there any difference between this and this?
No.
Between this and this.
Oh, maybe I don't know how to use a microphone. Okay. Hey. Thank you all for coming. This is one of our first events for the NYU Production Lab, and we're really excited to have you all here. I recognize a few faces, but I don't know everyone. And we thought, like, there's definitely some grad film representation. I noticed that. But where are other people from? What other programs are here? Anyone representing?
Biology.
Biology. Anyone else? Hey kids. And
Steinhardt.
Steinhardt, cool.
Gallatin.
Gallatin. Great. Well, thanks for coming. My name is Kathy, and I'm the student lead, the staff lead for the student team, which is part of the many groups of people that are playing a part in NYU Production Lab. And this is John. Most of you know him as the former chair of the grad film program. And John helps run the production lab. What's the exact?
Yeah, I'm officially the academic director of the production lab and part of the coordinating team. There's a 4-member coordinating team, of which Brock Johnson, if he's still there, Brock is a member of it. Thank you so much, Brock, for setting this up tonight. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you guys enjoy this popcorn. And basically, we're here to there's a lot of activities in the production lab beyond this fund. As you can see, this is an amazing space. You can rent out this space. So all these little doodads, those like tablets, outside these rooms are available for you to just look at the schedule and rent. Or not rent, you don't have to pay, but to book the space. Also, this becomes just generally a common use space to hold meetings, to do work. We just ask that the work that you do here happens to have something to do with the productions that you're a part of. We also are going to have a lot more programming here. Perhaps you guys have already gone to Taco Tuesday or whatever else. We're going to have a lot more programming and panels and just a whole bunch of events. But the main thing tonight that I guess most of you are here for, and certainly everyone is very excited about, is the fund. The fund sits within the production lab, and we are going to have, or we do have, a fund, and we will be funding in both development, production, and post-production, in feature films as well as web series, and we can talk more about exactly what forms that will lend itself to. But we thought we could get started by first talking through the application. It sits on the website.
All right, I'll go do that.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
If you guys don't know, we have a website where we don't have the best Google SEO right now, so but we are findable, and also you can follow us on Facebook. I really advise everyone to sign up for our newsletter. We have an email newsletter. Do it because you're gonna get all the information that you need through there. Don't rely on, I know for grad film, don't rely on me forwarding everything to grad film listserv. It's not always gonna happen. So please do yourself a favor and sign up for the email listserv. Okay, so this is our website, and if you click on our website, you'll find our application. And yeah, here we go. We offer funding, and here we go. So we have two types of applications that are open for fall, and as you can see, the deadline is coming up. It's October 15th. We've got pre-production support, and let me say that doesn't mean development. This is not working. I'm just gonna scroll. Over here? Oh wow, that kind of helps. No. Okay. Can everyone just hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we have pre-production support. John, do you wanna click on it?
I do.
Okay. This is great. This is like the best. Okay. And we've got a whole application for you. I just want to highlight a few things. Right now, we are looking to support up to 50,000 or 49%, right? 49% of the total budget, whatever comes first. And so keep that in mind. We cannot fully fund anything that you have, but obviously it's enough to get a lot of people going. It's a lot. It's enough for a lot of people to say, here's outside funding for this project, and hopefully help you kickstart your fundraising. That's sort of the idea. And for what we're calling production fund, or production funding, that is not development, which means don't come to us with just an idea and that's it. We want to see a full script. If not a full script, at least a good chunk of the script. We want to see some real thought behind who else is on the team, when would you shoot, what that schedule is going to look like. It shouldn't just be like, I've got this great idea and now give me money so I can think about it some more. It should be, I've already thought about this quite a lot. I'm going to demonstrate how much I really thought about it and why this is such a great idea. So eventually we might be offering development funding, but currently we're not. So all the funding should really go right into your production budget and not for someone else to keep writing or to keep developing it. As you can see, there's just a lot, the project formats are split between three different types. There's the narrative feature, that's pretty straightforward, feature-length narrative piece. Documentary. The documentary requirements are going to be a little bit different because obviously you might not have a script for that. You may have shot a few bits and pieces already. So there we're more looking at the story itself, the access you're going to have, and what your plan is very specifically in terms of getting that footage that you'll need. And then finally, there's episodic. And episodic is interesting because it's tough. Right now, we're discussing a lot whether can we fund a pilot, for example. And that's tough because a lot of times pilots almost serve like shorts these days, where you'll have to reshoot the pilot. So most people are making pilot presentations that will hopefully be able to get them a deal. And then there's not as easy of a way, it's not as traditional in the sense of if you sell it, what that's going to look like, what do the equity holders get? Because this fund is an equity fund. So we're not here just to give out grants. We would be an equity investor in the film, which means that we will get back in because other equity investors will get back in, which means we'll see through the entirety of the film. And once you're done, and if you ever get distribution, which all of you will, and I really do mean that more and more so, I think, you'll get, we will continue to be there because the ultimate idea for this fund is that it's evergreen. And so the films that we invest in will be able to give us some return that will go back into the fund and invest in more films. And so when we, and this is a whole decision-making process, that starts with the student team and then goes to, what's your
Faculty advisors.
The faculty
coordinating
advisors.
teams.
Right, the coordinating team, and then it goes to an external board of advisors of industry professionals that we've arranged to. Okay, so there's going to be 3 levels of this, and no one person is going to be able to say yes or no and dictate the outcome. But certainly, part of what we're looking at beyond just the content itself and the story and how much we like it is recruitment, because we are a fund and because this is equity. And in terms of episodic, it just gets a little tricky if you just want us to invest in a pilot, because a pilot ends up serving like a short, which is a proof of concept for something else that becomes more bankable. And so while we're open to it, normally what we're going to look for is an overview of an entire series and something that looks more like a web series, something that you could potentially produce yourself all the way through, rather than like a Game of Thrones type budget, but you're trying to shoot just the pilot of that. So yeah, I wanted to be very clear about the 3. If someone has something that you feel like doesn't fit nicely into any of these 3 categories, obviously talk to us and let us know. But these are sort of the 3 that we're focusing on first, primarily because there's a market for these 3 types of content. So if you're a visual artist and you want to do something in video, but if there isn't really a market for that sort of thing, then this is not really the fund for that kind of project as it stands. We're also going to look at who you've already attached. So certainly you do not need to have all of these, but just if we want to see how much you've thought about this and how serious you are, and certainly the big roles like producer and DP, production, like a casting director, people that will help you package the film. That's something that you should start thinking about. We're gonna look for a personal statement, just talking about how you came up with the project, why it's personal to you, why it's meaningful to you, why we should care about it. Bios of the team members, pretty straightforward. The budget range and description, and here we don't have a maximum budget. So you could, if you want, come to us with a $300 million film and want us to put $50,000 in it. Yeah, we'll be so helpful there. But there isn't a budget. We don't want to cap it, but we are looking for, and we are also not capping in terms of age or how long you've been out of NYU. That said, we are going to put priority people who are still sort of new-ish to the industry, who are pursuing their first features, who don't necessarily have representation or large, like very ongoing, intense relationships with people in the industry. I mean, this is a way to help people start out in the industry. So while we're not capping any budget or any age, we are going to be looking mainly at people who really need this money. And then we're going to ask you what budget you could request from NYU. Certainly you could put, I need 50,000. Certainly you can just ask for the max, but sometimes you might need a specific thing. We've seen this a lot with post-production where, it's like, okay, we're almost done. We need $20,000 to see this through, to color, to do whatever. Because we're going to ask you to substantiate that. Like, why do you need this much? What does that budget look like, and how is that really going to impact you? Of course, from a production perspective, and you're just starting off and you need that money, it's perfectly fine to say, I need all 50, but just substantiate that by giving us a budget. And, we'll be able to see through that how much thinking you've done in terms of what you really need. And current financing, that's really important. Have you already started? Do you have any grants? Do you have any other equity investors? If you have equity investors, what are their deals? What does that look like? What are their points? What is backing you structured? Please give us all that information, especially in post. If you're looking for post, that's really important because we want to know on our end what we're getting into. So if you have an incredibly complicated equity structure for your financiers, we want to know that. Or if all of this is crowdfunded and grant funded, and we would be the only equity investors in a film, like that's also interesting and quite appealing. So we just want to know and understand all of that. Status of rights and clearances, really important. Hope we really want you to either already have the rights, have an option for the rights, or at least be speaking to the people who have the rights, and it feels likely that you're going to get it. So we'll want to have proof of that, whether it's an email exchange, whatever it is, or like the actual option itself. But again, we're not going to want to put NYU money into something that may not, work out or get sued later. Production schedule, a tentative schedule is completely fine. I know that, it doesn't have to be like, we're definitely shooting. Sometimes, oftentimes we might be like one of your first port of calls in terms of fundraising. So, but we want to get a sense that you've thought about it at least. Like, is this a 5-month-long ordeal in the deserts of Morocco, or is this something that can be shot in a few weeks or even weekends in New York? We want to get a sense of scale from you. Recommendation letter from an NYU faculty member. I think that is that still a requirement, or is that? So yeah, I think if you're a current or recently current student and that's something easy to obtain, please go for it. It's going to help your application. It doesn't seem like it's possible. Just write us a little note that says, I've been out 10 years and it doesn't make any more sense. But we would like, if you don't get the faculty member, we would like another recommendation letter from someone that you work with, someone outside in the industry, anyone that can just vouch for you and say some awesome things about you. Visual portfolio, the best thing to do would send us a link to a short. Send us a link to a short that is somewhat related to the project that you want us to fund. Ideally, a proof of concept short that you've already shot. If not that, just something. Or the best thing that you have, whatever that may be. If you don't have a video, but somehow there's relevant photography, maybe you want to just put together a lookbook, but I think ideally something in the format in which you plan to shoot would be better. And then we have another series of questions. I know this is getting really long, but I think we all want to take it very seriously and hopefully really help these projects start and finish and everything in between. So most of these hopefully are questions that you've already considered, that you've already thought about, that you've probably already answered to apply to other things. And so, hopefully it doesn't take up too much of your time. Who is your audience? How do you plan to position? This is a marketing question. We want you to think about that because right now we're working, for example, on a project in which we're going to help them self-distribute. And that's part of the lab is to look at it from start to finish. So it's not just, here we go, here's some money, make your movie, but it's also like, how do you plan to get it out to the world? Can we help you get that out to the world somehow? Whether it's introducing you to people or to actually go through a whole self-distribution model with you. And therefore, it's great if we can hear from you how you plan to get it out there. And it could be, this is a classic festival film, and we want to, and this is our strategy, and and these are the sort of classic types of people that we think will look at the film. Or it could be like, we want to just self-release this digitally, like whatever it is, just let us know. And in terms of, the support from the lab, like I said, this is not just the funding, we also are kind of just here to advise, to help, to ideally make some introductions. And while we're sort of developing that ourselves, it'd be nice to hear from you guys who are like the guys that want the support, like what that would look like and where you think it could be helpful. And finally, extra information. So, this could be, I was a Princess Grace scholar, or like it could be whatever it may be that is anyhow related. We got a huge Huffington Post article written about this story, or whatever it may be. Just like you think that it would be beneficial for us to know, put it down. especially if there's going to be other grants or labs involved, just so we are clear as to like who the other stakeholders of this project are. Cool. That's about it. And the post-production application looks pretty similar. Some of these questions don't exist. Some are the same. I guess we can quickly go through that. All the same, all the same. Same. Yeah, this becomes really important in post. If you don't have this in post, we have to have a discussion. Right, post-production schedule. A lot of times it's people who want reshoots, and so yeah, if that's part of where that money is going to go to, then we want to know what your production schedule is going to look like. Visual portfolio. What?
Is the post-production schedule that has to be on like a separate document, or you can just write all the timeline there?
This should be a separate. We'll check on that. This looks like it's just something that you fill out, which wouldn't make any sense. So we'll make sure that you can upload a PDF as well. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, again, visual portfolio becomes even more important in post because it should be the thing that you're already working on. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. So, yeah. And we don't have a specific date in which we'll get back to people. I think it'll depend on how many applications we have, and we want to take it seriously. And like I said, there's going to be a 3-step process in terms of acceptance, and then the final process is an external board of advisors, people from the industry, much like the Purple List actually. And so they'll sort of give that final okay going off of the recommendations from before, and so that whole process might take a little bit. So hopefully no one is, waiting on this last little bit and planning to shoot in, mid-October. But if you are, just let us know, and maybe we'll try to work with you guys on that. We'll try to work with you guys on anything. So yeah, now we are open to questions.
Questions? Yeah. Yes. Go.
Sure.
How do you determine what percentage equity that that NYU's going to get?
Yeah, I think we'll look at what your budget is, and then take what we're able to give you, and take a pretty, percentage off that. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend. So we'll have somewhat of a standardized contract for everyone, but everything is going to be specific to that project. And so if you've got an equity investor that's like going to put in 95% of the film, and they want specific terms, then we'll have to talk about that, and make it work. But I don't think we're trying to make a ton of money off of anyone, and we're just trying to be as fair as possible. But obviously, hopefully, in line with what other equity investors would be getting.
And if I could jump in, there's the first 3 projects that we got involved with were pilot projects. Pretty much, I mean, they were really good films that needed post-production support, and it was good for us. It was good for the lab to get involved in those projects because we got to work through a lot of the contracts and the way that we're going to work. And with the post-production stuff, eventually we came up with a template, a contract template, but all 3 projects were different. Their business models were different. Their production company had been set up differently. And so in each case, we had to modify the contract to work with those specific films. Right now, we're working on the contract for production funding. It's not finished yet, but when we get it, I think what we'll do is we'll probably just publish that online so that everybody can see what that contract. We're looking at doing something a little bit different that's normally done in independent financing. So we're working through some stuff. We're doing our research now and working through some stuff. But we'll publish that. But again, every project, every film gets set up a little bit differently. So it'll probably be modified. So there'll be a template. There'll be a kind of a standard contract, but it might change. And with this funding, it's never going to be that you just put in an application, you wait, and then one day you hear that you got it. It's going to be a very involved conversation and a working out of contracts and dialogue with us. You'll be working with NYU General Counsel, and they're very, very good. I mean, they did a fantastic job with those 3 projects, and but there are certain things that the university, requires us to do, and so you'll be working with them.
Could you actually? I know you said you mentioned a 3-step process, but I actually don't know if I heard like exactly what those 3 steps are, and then also sort of things like if some of us are a lot of changes happening with a project. Like next week after the application, I've gotten my casting director, or we
Right.
got the actress to sign. Is there going to be like? I know you said you don't know exactly the date, but yeah, is there an ability to sort of follow up and be like, hey, so we did get that casting director, and like, and then secondly, sort of, is it like, are we saying 6 months before we hear a word, or like, yeah.
Yeah, it won't be that long. I think we're gonna try it like a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then like, and sorry, the process of like 3.
Sure.
What is it?
In terms for you guys, there's no work on your end, so you just apply and that's set. I just mean from an internal decision-making process. So, and to be completely abundantly sort of clear, and the way that we're going to handle it is that the first people to look at it will be the student team, and we're just going to look at it, give our recommendation as to is this something we want to invest in, and also the level at which, because like I said, we could put in a maximum of 50, but this is also a finite fund, and while it's not mutually exclusive, so it's not like this project versus this project, we can only fund these 2 or anything like that. We're obviously, we might say, we don't want to take that big of a risk on it. Maybe we won't give all 50. Maybe we'll give what we feel like they need, or whatever that may be. And so we'll give that kind of recommendation, and that recommendation will go to the sort of faculty advisory board. They'll take a look at it, and then the final decision is sort of okayed or sanctioned or not sanctioned by this external advisory board. So that's what I mean by the 3 layers. And yeah, it should be about a month. I mean, certainly 6 months. Right. We'll have another round by 6 months, so it definitely wouldn't be that. And yeah, to let you guys know, there is going to be another round in the spring. So if this is like something that's really interesting to you right now, but your script is not there yet, just wait and come back to us in 6 months. We'll be here. And in terms of, I think your last
Updating,
question,
yeah.
totally update us. Yeah,
Just like
totally
by
get
email
that.
to which person, or
To the contact.
Yeah.
or to the production.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you can send it to me, but like,
Okay.
we're a small team, so, but definitely we get that things move around all the time. But at the same time, if you told us in your application that you had casted Brad Pitt and Brad Pitt drops out,
Okay.
we want to know that too,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
So
Yeah.
it works both ways.
Yeah.
Little detail.
Right.
Right. But if you casted Brad Pitt, Mazel, call it a day.
Hi, so I was wondering if does the production lab then provide for a nonfiction project, for a documentary project, fiscal sponsorship for other grants? Are you considered a nonprofit? Are you?
We are a nonprofit.
Yeah.
We're a not-for-profit. Yeah, I'm sure we could do that. I mean, that's the first time we've had that question. I
Yeah.
don't see any reason why that couldn't be. Yeah.
Okay. And then also following up on that for a documentary project, budget-wise, do you consider, is it feasible to think that maybe this is how the production can purchase equipment, or is that not an option?
Yeah, I think it can go to whatever you deem is necessary to make your project. So it's going to vary between narrative and doc in that way. But yeah, like if you can't get equipment in any other way and you need it to make your movie, then that's definitely something, that's part of the production budget and that we'll look at.
Yeah, and the way the money is released will be like a regular kind of contract. There'll be dates, there'll be marks that'll be set, whether it's the beginning of pre-production or the beginning of first day of principal photography or whatever, and that'll be worked out on a project-by-project basis. But it's not like you're turning in receipts at the end and justifying. It's like you get a payment, you hit your mark, you get the funding, depending on the project and stuff.
So I was wondering, if production qualify for pre-production or production funding, then after that, can we still apply for post funding, or is it exclusive one or the other? And secondly, is it exclusive to the applicant? Say you're directing one and producing another feature, do they both qualify? What's the maximum number of projects can you apply per round per year, etc.?
We don't have any limits.
We don't. You seem very ambitious.
Yes,
so
that's
that's
very good.
yeah, I mean, but it goes back to the same principle I think I mentioned before, which is this is also to help people start their careers. So, if you're coming back to us with your second feature and your first feature was fully funded and did well and was distributed, it's like give other people a chance a little bit. But certainly, if you play a different role and they're really worthwhile projects and they're just happen to be starting around the same time, I think that's totally fine. And certainly, we're happy to look at a project that we've already supported in production for post. I don't see a problem with that. If it's a worthwhile project the first time around, and we'll just assess it the same way that we would assess it again.
And one thing to keep in mind about this is this is a new venture, and we've tried to keep the application and the rubric that we've created for assessing the projects and making determinations. We've tried to keep it as flexible as possible to see what comes in. Also, because we know like we're talking about feature films, narrative, non-narrative right now. A couple of years from now, we may be talking about a whole different kind of content or entertainment or whatever. So we're trying to just go like, what are you guys working on? What do you need support with? And a really important part of it is what is the business model? How can we recoup on this to keep that fund going for the next group of filmmakers?
So I know because so I feel like you guys, because this is just starting, that you're also just kind of like figuring out things as you go, I assume. But
Yes.
I was kind of wondering if you have like your overall big goal for, is this just to support a huge variety of projects, or do you have a specific goal, like you want to help with getting like all the movies that you can to distribution? So there's a certain kind of projects that would be more appealing to you, because if they can do better and financially recoup, then that's better for the lab, so that's more appealing. Or just kind of wondering what what I'm thinking.
You want to go?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I think there's a fine line that we're always trying to balance between being an equity investor fund, but also being part of the school. And again, it's a nonprofit versus for-profit mentality, and it's this weird line that we're still definitely trying to figure out. I think the big goal is to support people's careers coming out of NYU. And like, if you think about it, it all started because Edward McDonald, like 5 years ago, in CRI was like, why isn't NYU putting its money where its mouth is? It's helped, it's launched the careers of so many people, but it doesn't actually, it hasn't certainly monetarily benefited from it, but also it wasn't really there to be able to help them. And to think that we could have, invested in Do the Right Thing or like any of these like big movies or big projects that had come out of NYU. And so that was the genesis of it, which was just the idea of like, why aren't we getting involved in these projects? Also, why aren't we helping them get made? Especially with everything that's changing with distribution, with how cheap you could make a film if you wanted to. Like, it just feels like the right time to do it. And so I think that's always that's the big goal, is just to support, and whatever sort of content that's coming out of NYU, we want to support as wide a variety of it as possible. But of course, there is that other end of it. Like, it doesn't, because we can't just have endless funds from NYU donors to keep supporting this fund, and this fund has to, in a way, be evergreen. We're we're gonna look at that too. We're not a nonprofit grant giving organization like Sloan, where it's like Sloan has a different mandate, right? It's like not every film is gonna fulfill the Sloan mandate either, because not every film is gonna have science in it, and so our mandate is a bit broader than that, but our mandate is still, this has to be something that can be put to market. And now it doesn't have to be a blockbuster. It doesn't, I think the reason that we're so optimistic right now is like there are so many different ways to distribute a film, and a smaller film, and a niche thing, you know, and so it certainly doesn't have to be huge, and it doesn't have to be an obvious commercial film, but it has to have some exit. It shouldn't just, you know, just the same way that we're not going to put money into a second year short, where a short can't be, you know, sold or whatever. Very few shorts get sold. Maybe maybe your second year film got sold, but you know what I mean. Like, we're still looking primarily for something that is going to get out there in the world.
First of all, this is a great idea, especially the aspect of doing also like this equity participation. I think help us understanding what does it mean to be in the industry, like to like we start actually not just getting money raining from the sky, but actually have a project with a partnership that can lead to anyway. So my question is. Once we are, I mean, let's say like we got this, we signed the contract and everything. When it comes to distribution, and we are like in talk with, for example, distribution companies or everything, would the production lab contractually want to have a say in the choice of the distributors or like this distribution strategy? What's the kind of participation that the production lab has in dealing with distributors?
I mean, as much as you want us to, like we aren't going to sign on as EPs, right? So there's like a certain, it's like we expect you to use the money the way that you intended to use it, and the way that we intended you to use it when we gave it to you, and then we expect you to report back. But in terms of, are we going to be next to you at a festival and be telling you, go with this guy rather than, go with like, because even if they give you less, like they're better, whatever, we're not gonna go there. I think ideally the idea is that we build a network of people too, and then we have this brand and sort of, it's marketing, right? So it's like, okay, if you become a production lab film, then here's like all these people, like here are sales agents that we know, here are people that can sort of help you with that if you want. And so once we support you financially, the idea is to be able to support you in other ways, especially with potential relationships and advice. But I mean, especially if, let's say, your film is a $5 million film and you can put 50,000 in, I don't think it's fair to say we have, a lot of say as to who your distributor is.
It's not my case.
Daggy.
I just want to follow up on Ash's question. So, I know you guys are really focused on first-time filmmakers, but I just want to kind of specify between, say, we come on as a role as a producer, and we're helping someone else make their movie, but we're also, would like to get our own movie made as a director. Is that going to be kind of considered, well, we just helped you get a movie made, you signed on as a producer?
You mean applying on the same
On
round?
the same round, like two different rounds. Yeah, but say like we applied this round, are we ruining our chance? So say, okay, here I'll make it very specific. Say Laura signs on my producer.
Got it.
This round, just be super specific. Does that ruin her chances of in the next round directing her, getting her film through?
I would say no, but I don't see any reason why that would.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so we can have that conversation.
I mean, if your film does wildly well, and Laura suddenly has this immense, attention. Like she just signed with CAA. Like, everything is going swimmingly well, and folk has just signed like a, two first look deal with it, right? Then it's like, what do you need this lab? But if it's just any sort of
We're
good
helping each other
scenario,
out.
but
Yeah.
yeah, then it's totally fine. And I mean, personally, like as someone who does all of it, I would not want to hinder anyone's chances because they produce as well, right? Like,
Can you talk a little about your other in-kind support apart from finances? Because you mentioned there'll be events and networking and contacts and so on.
Sure. I wish Miranda was here for this part. She's already scheduled out a whole calendar of events from different panels, from like pitching sessions, and just basically whatever you guys want. Just let us know, and we'll try to make an event happen for it. So, bringing in certain experts or panelists. I think the goal is to be able to sort of eventually use this production lab as a way to develop relationships with people in the industry as well. So having a relationship, like, okay, these are the films that we've okayed that we are going to support. Like, hey, I don't want to give away names just yet, but like, hey, awesome other company, would you want to look at this, right? And then sort of start these kind of relationships. So a lot of that will be stuff like that. That's just hard to fully define, but will be more than just like here's some money in a silo, and then like come back to us when you've made the movie. And then there's a lot of programming that exists for everyone, for everyone in the NYU community. So not just people who are supported by the fund, because the fund is its own sort of like little entity within the larger lab, and this space is for everyone. So even if you don't get financial support, there's many other ways to, I guess, take advantage of the lab.
Yeah, and a lot of the idea of the lab is also to marshal all the resources from amongst the larger university. So anybody here from the law school tonight? Any law school people? Okay. So we've been in conversations with deans and administrators and faculty all across the university. And for instance, the law school is very interested in being part of the lab. There's a lot of students over there that are studying to be entertainment lawyers that have wanted to get together with the film students, and there's just never been any kind of forum. There's never been any way for them to find their way to you guys. And you guys, the filmmakers, don't really know you need a lawyer until you need a lawyer. And then it's beyond, so this is an opportunity now to maybe build a law clinic through the law school that will work with you guys specifically on the lab projects, but also just as a general, so you don't have to go to Cardozo. There'll be something right here at NYU, and those kind of relationships all through the university. And that's a lot of just bringing people together, setting up programming, musicians, the Stern people, Steinhardt, Galton, just bringing people together from different parts of the university to find each other and provide some kind of opportunities for them to work together. And then there's also, we're thinking about, this is a brand new thing, so we're just like, what do we need? So, like, one of the ideas that we were kicking around the other day was an episodic lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like we have the purple list in grad film, and that's an interesting thing that there's a way of vetting feature, really good quality feature films, and there may be something that we can do like that to just look at, even if we can't figure out how to monetize or recoup from something, there may be a way to highlight those things, showcase those things to the industry through some kind of competition and some kind of event or workshop and something like that. So we're looking at all those kinds of programming.
And certainly let us know if there's something that you need or want to see, because that's a lot of it. It's just
If I may make a suggestion just
Yeah,
right here
yes.
since you asked. We'd love to, as filmmakers who haven't made their first feature, we'd love to hear from people who have because
Right.
they just that one step,
Yeah.
Yeah.
above us,
It's really important.
and learn from their experience.
I think there was actually
Yeah, I
something
think Miranda's
coming up.
working on that. If Miranda's
with that,
watching, she
but-
can type it in.
No, seriously, just send all that stuff to the NYU production lab, or production lab at NYU. I think is our sort of generic email that goes to most of us. So those are all great suggestions.
Yeah.
How can we get involved on a student team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is exciting. We are actually looking to hire a development lead right now. So we have, I sort of oversee it, and then we've got a business ops lead, and we have a marketing and distribution lead, and it's also on the website, so you can apply for the development lead. I think it's either up or it's going to be up for the development lead. And then once we really build it out, we'll also have a legal lead, most likely from the law school, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who have law degrees not in law school either. And
Music
and
tech.
physical production,
And physical production.
right?
Yeah.
And music and tech.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're building it out. We're starting a little small first, but then we're going to be building it out. So just watch out for announcements on our newsletter as well as on our website. And also, we sort of seek people out too secretly a little bit, or not seek people out, but we welcome people to apply.
And also, if each of those leads, then, and this is something that we're just trying to work out with the university, just as far as building up teams. But each of those leads, then, ideally, will have a small group of people that are interested in that area and can work with them, or take. We don't have a bunch of paid positions. The leads are the paid positions right now. But we're trying to work with the university on maybe course credit or independent studies or something to allow students to really participate in those teams. And and we're hoping that once this is we're into it for a while, that the next lead will come from that group, and there'll be a nice transitions and continuity with the staff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was thinking of it just as like you don't get paid to have a position on a club, but people
Yeah.
still do it.
That kind of thing, yeah. So get in touch with us and let us know what you're interested in,
Shout.
and
Yeah.
we'll find something for you to do.
We'll definitely find
Yeah.
something for you to do. Definitely. Definitely.
And how often do those positions rotate?
Depends. It kind of depends. So to be on the student team, you have to still be matriculated. So I'm a thesis student. I'm done with my classes, but I'm still matriculated. As soon as I graduate, I'm out. No more. So, or you can be obviously a current student. So that tends to limit the amount of time anyone gets to serve on it. I think we try to get someone on that at least will be able to give a year. So like if you know that you're in your last semester and then you're going to graduate, it doesn't really lend itself to like staying on for very long or any sort of longevity. But I mean, I would say anything up to 2 years, 2 to 3 years. Like I guess just depending on how long you want to stick around.
Yeah, but I think ideally it's like a year. Kind of thing. Rotate them in a year.
For the letter of recommendation, is it more supposed to be about the applicant or about the specific project, or obviously a little bit both, but kind of like, it's better to have somebody who's read the script and given a lot of notes, or somebody who knows you from like the projects you've done in the past.
Well, for sure about the applicant, definitely. But if that faculty member or that outside person is familiar with the project and wants to, speak about that, that would be great as
Okay,
well.
that's sort of lesser. It's like more important to have the person who knows speaks to you and your
Yeah.
work, as opposed to like, I've
Yeah.
read this script and I'm very familiar with it.
Right. Whatever you think is going to fill out your application. So if you have your script and you've already talked about the project, then what new piece of information would be helpful.
So all
Sure. Why not?
And I think you said this in the beginning, but this is open to like matriculated students and graduate students.
You mean the fund, the application for the fund?
Or just matriculate?
No, recent alums as well.
Recent.
And I'm not defining recent.
We have not defined recent.
You know who you are.
So when I speaking about the application, when it's written that you have to upload, like for example, the front page of the budget or other things, how does it work? Because I mean, we don't have like an email to send it to, but we should put like a public online, and you have a link on it. And what if I don't want to disclose information about my budget online? You know.
Right. We'll look into that. I think there's a way to leave a note underneath, like if it's a password protected link, you know, you can just leave a note in the next bit, like, you know, to access my budget, here is the password for this
That'd be
link.
great.
Yeah.
Sometimes to display, to give information about the budget can lead to considerations about like the distribution deals, like they see how much it costs, they will give you less money, you know, if
Sure.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
maybe we're not ready to be detailed about the budget yet at that level. So
Right. If it's a confidentiality thing, you can always email us anything too.
Alright.
We'll just reference that application. We'll make sure it all gets, grouped in together.
great.
But ultimately, if you make a contract with us as an investor, I mean, all that has to be transparent, just like it would be with any investor.
Yeah.
There has to be complete transparency.
Totally. Yeah, that's
I mean, and not for public,
yeah, exactly.
but just between us.
Between
It
us.
has
Yeah,
to be complete transparent.
Yeah, that's I was trying to figure out a way to provide all the details to you without making like worldwide
Publicly,
accessible.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's just a technical thing. We can figure that out.
Yes. Lean back, yeah.
Alright, so I just rushed over here from work, so I missed the first part, like the main part of the
Oh,
presentation.
it was the best part.
I can tell. My questions are, what would be the best place for me to get that information? And secondly, is there a point of contact that I can speak with regarding any unique needs of a given project production?
Sure. The website has a lot. Basically, the first bit was just me talking about the application, which is all up there, but just going into a little bit more detail about that. So I would definitely suggest take a look at our websites. All the sort of rules and regulations and everything is up there as well. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to me or just email productionlab
The
at
contact.
nyu.edu, which is the general contact. Someone will get back to you.
Got it, great, thanks.
Miles, anything else? All right, if there's no further questions, thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, man. It's great to see you. Were you in this country when we were emailing them?
I just
That's good. I was looking at your back. I was like, I wonder if he just came. That's good. How was your flight?
It was, it wasn't bad.
You're not fleeing any extradition or anything. You
Not
can't get
yet.
to shoot yet. You're like, well, they'll find the body when they'll leave, and then I'll have to stay here.
No, I actually received a ticket not long ago for speeding,
Ah.
and it did say if I didn't pay, it would be substituted for 3 days in prison.
No way. Oh my God, how fast were you
And I was
going?
like, and I'm from so I was like,
How are you doing? How are you cutting your features?